The Galactic Alliance had grown confident over the centuries. Their fleet, with its sleek ships and advanced technology, dominated the stars. Most of the younger generation of officers laughed at the old stories of ancient fleets that roamed the galaxy. The idea of an older, more powerful fleet seemed like a fairy tale to them, just an exaggerated tale told by historians and veterans who missed the good old days. Commander Enzal was no different. He stood at the helm of his ship, the Sovereign Blade *, looking out at the vast expanse of space. Beside him were his junior officers, a group of eager and ambitious aliens from different races within the Alliance. They had just completed a routine patrol when they received an unexpected signal from a distant system, far from any known colony or base. "What's the source of the signal?" Enzal asked, his voice firm and curious. One of the officers, a young Koval named Terrace, tapped away at his console. "It's coming from the Nixera system. Sir, it's an uninhabited sector. No life forms or known structures. Just an anomaly." He paused, then added with a grin, "Could be some old junk drifting around." The others laughed. Old junk indeed. There were many regions of space filled with forgotten relics, scraps from long-gone civilizations or remnants of ancient battles. But nothing ever proved to be of importance. Enzal, like his crew, believed that anything old was irrelevant. The present belonged to the Galactic Alliance and its mighty fleet. "Let's check it out," Enzal ordered. "It might be nothing, but we have time before the next scheduled patrol." Plot a course. The ship jumped through hyperspace, reaching the Nixera system in no time. As they arrived, their sensors immediately detected something unusual. Floating in the darkness of space, orbiting a dead planet, was a fleet of massive ships. They were unlike anything the crew had seen before, huge, rugged, and dark, as though they had been abandoned for centuries. Dust and debris surrounded them like a cloud, making the fleet look even more ominous. "Scans show no life forms aboard," Terrace reported, "but the ships are intact. They're old, but fully intact." Enzal raised an eyebrow. He wasn't expecting to find such a large fleet in the middle of nowhere. "How old are we talking?" he asked, trying to keep his tone neutral, but even he felt a slight chill. The officer ran a few more scans, his expression shifting from curiosity to confusion. "It's hard to say, sir. The materials and design don't match anything in our databases, but I would estimate several thousand years, at least." The crew went silent for a moment. Several thousand years. That was ancient by any standard. The Galactic Alliance itself was only a few centuries old. "Are they functional?" Enzal asked, though he already knew the answer wouldn't make sense. No ship that old could still be functional. "Surprisingly, yes," Terrace replied. "Their systems are dormant, but they appear to be in good condition. It's as if they were just turned off." One of the junior officers, a cocky young Brax named Orin, laughed. "Maybe they were too scared to keep fighting and just powered down. Whoever built these didn't stand a chance against real fleets like ours." The crew chuckled at Orin's remark, but Enzal stayed silent. He stared at the ancient fleet, something tugging at the back of his mind. The ships didn't look weak or abandoned out of fear. There was something more, something they weren't seeing yet. "Send a team to investigate," Enzal commanded. "We need to know who built these ships and why they were left here." As the team prepared for the mission, the excitement among the crew grew. They believed this was just a relic from some forgotten civilization, perhaps one that had crumbled long ago. But Enzal couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something important. He walked over to the observation deck, looking at the silent fleet once more. He had seen many things during his career, but something about these ships felt different. They were sturdy, built for battle, and they seemed to hold secrets no one had discovered yet. "Commander," Terrace said quietly, walking up beside him, "what if these ships were more powerful than we think?" Enzal turned to him, a serious expression on his face. "Then we need to find out who built them, and hope they're not still around." As the cruise shuttle approached the largest ship in the ancient fleet, they were unaware of the truth they were about to uncover. These were no ordinary relics, and the beings who had built them were far from forgotten. The shuttle docked with the largest ship in the ancient fleet. Its dark, weathered surface told stories of battles fought long ago. The Galactic Alliance crew, still confident in their own superiority, stepped out into the unknown. They wore advanced spacesuits, carrying scanners and weapons, though none expected to face any real danger. To them, these were just relics of a forgotten past. Lieutenant Orin, always eager to impress, took the lead. "Look at this place," he said, his voice crackling through the comms. "It's a miracle these ships haven't crumbled to dust. Definitely old junk, nothing for us to worry about." Behind him, the team followed cautiously. There were 5 of them: Orin, Terrace, and 3 other officers from different races within the Alliance. Each was a specialist in engineering, history, or combat, prepared for any situation, except, perhaps, the one they were walking into. The inside of the ship was dark and cold. The walls were thick, made of an unfamiliar metal that seemed both primitive and strong. Dust floated through the air as their lights swept the area. The corridors stretched out in all directions, with wires and panels that looked strangely well preserved for their age. "Readings show no signs of life," Terrace said, checking his scanner. "Power's down, too. We're clear to proceed." The team moved deeper into the ship, exploring the layout. They found control rooms, engine compartments, and weapons stations. Everything looked functional, but ancient. The technology was crude compared to the sleek systems of the Galactic Alliance, but there was something about it, something practical, designed for efficiency, not aesthetics. "This doesn't make sense," said Ron, an alien engineer from the Azari race. "These systems are simple, but they're built to last. Look at the way the circuits are layered. Even with no maintenance for centuries, the ship could still function if power was restored." Orin laughed again, his voice echoing through the ship. "Last? Sure, it might turn on. But what's the point? Any modern ship would blast this thing out of space in seconds." "Don't be so sure," Raul muttered, running his fingers over a console. "This ship wasn't designed to look pretty. It was built for war." As they moved further into the ship, the sense of mystery grew. They found weapons that, while outdated, were massive and intimidating. Cannons lined the hull, and the shields, though offline, were thicker than anything they had seen before. This ship wasn't just old, it was a fortress. "Whoever built this was preparing for a serious fight," Terrace noted. "These ships were meant to last in battle." "Yeah, but who?" Orin asked, still not taking the situation seriously. "There's no record of any civilization using tech like this. It's like they came from nowhere and just vanished." Terrace glanced at his scanner again. Something wasn't right. His readings were picking up faint energy signatures, as if parts of the ship were still quietly running on emergency power. "I'm getting some weak signals," he said. "Let's head to the central command deck. If we can find the main computer, we might be able to learn more about who built this fleet." The team made their way toward the heart of the ship, moving through narrow corridors and past massive reinforced doors. Finally, they'd reached the command center, a vast room filled with controls, screens, and large viewing windows that looked out into the empty void of space. "This is it," Ron said, stepping up to the main console. "Let me see if I can get anything online." As he worked, the rest of the crew spread out, examining the room. Orin, still amused, leaned against one of the windows, looking out at the other ships in the fleet. "You know," he said, "if these ships were so powerful, why didn't they survive? Why haven't we heard of them before? Seems like they weren't as great as people think." Before anyone could respond, the ship hummed to life. Lights flickered on, casting eerie shadows across the room. The hum of machinery echoed through the walls. Ron stepped back, surprised by how quickly the system had activated. "I didn't think it would work," he admitted. I just restored minimal power. But the screens lit up, displaying lines of text in a language none of them recognized. But one thing stood out, an insignia, a familiar yet mysterious symbol that looked vaguely human. "Wait," Terrace said, staring at the emblem. That looks like. No, it can't be." "What is it?" Orin asked, finally losing his casual tone. Terrace hesitated before answering, his voice low. "It looks like an ancient human emblem. But that's impossible. Humans are a low-tech race. They couldn't have built this." The crew stood in stunned silence. They had come expecting to find ancient relics from a forgotten civilization. But this was something far more significant. As the realization began to sink in, the ship's computer activated fully, and a voice, calm, deep, and unmistakably human, spoke from the speakers. "System online. Welcome aboard the Human Federation flagship." The crew stared at each other, shocked and speechless. Humans built this fleet. The entire crew stood frozen, staring at the console that had just spoken in a human voice. Orin, who had been mocking the ships moments earlier, was now wide-eyed, unable to believe what he had heard. Humans building something like this. It didn't make sense. Did that computer just say Human Federation? Terrace asked, his voice shaking slightly. "Yes," Rom confirmed, still standing at the console, trying to process the information himself. "It's impossible. But the ship's systems are identifying as human. But this ship is thousands of years old. How could humans?" "They couldn't," Orin interrupted, shaking his head. "Humans are barely spacefaring. They only joined the Galactic Alliance a few decades ago. There's no way they built this fleet. It's a mistake." Terrace frowned, staring at the emblem on the screen. The insignia is human, though. And the voice, the language, everything is pointing to humans. And Zal's voice cut through the tension. "This is no time for arguing. We need answers, and we need them now." The commander had been silent, watching the events unfold. Now, with the crew shaken, he took control. "Ralm, see if you can access the ship's data records. I want to know where this fleet came from and how it ended up here." Ralm nodded and started typing commands into the console. The old system was surprisingly responsive, and after a few moments, he managed to pull up what appeared to be a log. The screen displayed a long list of entries, many of them corrupted or too old to read, but a few were still intact. "I'm accessing the logs," Ralm reported. "It seems like this fleet was part of something called the Human Federation Defense Fleet. They were active thousands of years ago, long before the Galactic Alliance was even formed." Terrace stepped closer, looking over Ralm's shoulder. What were they defending against? There's no record of humans having such advanced technology back then. Ralm scrolled through more entries, his eyes narrowing as he found a key piece of information. It says here they were at war. A war with an alien race called the Thyraxians. "The Thyraxians?" Orin asked, puzzled. "I've never heard of them." "Neither have I," Zal replied. "But if this fleet was built to fight them, they must have been a serious threat." Ralm nodded. "It looks like the Thyraxians were an aggressive, highly advanced species. They tried to invade human space, and the Federation built this fleet to stop them. These ships weren't just for defense. They were made for all-out war." Orin scoffed. "But that still doesn't explain how humans, of all species, built something this advanced. We've been studying their technology for years. It's primitive compared to ours." Ralm shook his head. "Maybe humans weren't always as primitive as we think. It's possible they had a golden age of technology, but something happened and they lost it. Their history could have been forgotten or deliberately erased." As the crew processed this shocking information, the ship's lights flickered again, and the computer spoke once more. "Warning. Hostile forces detected in nearby space. Thyraxian signature confirmed. Defense systems activating." The crew exchanged worried glances. Hostile forces. Phyrexians? That couldn't be possible. The Phyrexians were supposed to be an ancient race, long gone, like the fleet itself. Phyrexians? Terrace whispered. I thought they were extinct. I thought humans couldn't build advanced ships. Rahl muttered back, his fingers flying across the controls. This ship's sensors are picking up something on the far side of the system. It's weak, but it's there. Enzal's face hardened. Prepare for defense protocols. If this ship thinks we're under attack, we need to be ready. Can you bring the shields and weapons online? Rahl hesitated. I'm not sure. The systems are old, and we don't know how to operate them. But I'll try. The ship's computer continued to hum, and the crew felt the deck vibrate slightly as power surged through the vessel. Slowly, the lights grew brighter, and a low mechanical hum filled the air. It was as if the ancient warship was coming back to life, waking from centuries of slumber. The weapons are online, Rahl said, surprised at how easily the systems responded. Shields are charging. Orin, still trying to keep up with the events unfolding, stepped forward. But what if there are no Phyrexians? This could all be a glitch, an old program running on outdated systems. We can't trust a fleet this old to still be functional. Before anyone could respond, the view screen in the command center flickered to life. At first, it showed only static, but then shapes began to form. Ships, large and menacing, slowly emerging from the darkness of space. There, Terrace pointed at the screen. Something's coming. The ships on the screen didn't resemble anything the Galactic Alliance had ever encountered. They were sleek, black, and bristling with weapons. The crew recognized them instantly as hostile. Those aren't glitches, Enzal said, his voice calm but tense. They're real, and they're heading straight for us. The Phyrexians, an enemy thought to be extinct for thousands of years, were back. And now, the crew of the Sovereign Blade found themselves aboard a human warship, about to face an ancient foe they barely understood. Activate all defenses, Enzal ordered. Let's see if this old fleet still has some fight left in it. The crew of the Sovereign Blade hurried to their stations as the ancient ship's systems powered up. The old warship, once a relic of the past, was now their only hope against the approaching threat. The Phyrexian ships loomed closer, their dark forms becoming clearer on the view screen. Enzal took command with a determined look. Prepare for immediate engagement. Activate the shields and weapons. We don't know how effective this old tech will be, but we need to be ready. Rahl and Terrace worked quickly, their hands moving over the controls. The ancient ship's systems groaned and hummed, responding to the commands after centuries of inactivity. The shields flickered to life, a faint blue aura surrounding the ship. The weapons systems, though old and rusty, began to charge. Orin, who had been skeptical of the old fleet, was now silent, his usual bravado replaced by apprehension. He strapped himself into the gunner's seat, checking the controls with a mix of anxiety and excitement. Weapons are online, but I've never used anything like this before. Neither have we, Terrace replied, his voice steady. We're all in this together. The Phyrexian ships moved in formation, their dark silhouettes cutting through the void of space. Their weapon systems were already active, visible as faint glows on their hulls. It was clear they were not here for a friendly visit. Phyrexians approaching at high velocity. Rahl reported, his eyes glued to the sensors. They'll be within firing range in minutes. Enzal's expression hardened. Prepare to engage. Fire when ready. The ancient ship's weapons roared to life, unleashing a barrage of energy blasts toward the approaching enemy. The shots were not as precise or powerful as those from modern ships, but they were enough to cause a few Phyrexian vessels to veer off course. The Phyrexians responded immediately. Their ships fired back with bright, intense beams of energy. The ancient ship's shields held for now, but the impact made the crew brace themselves. Shields at 80%, Rahl reported, his face tense. We're holding, but not for long. The crew fought to keep the ship steady as the battle raged on. Orin, trying to get used to the outdated controls, focused on targeting the enemy ships. His aim was rough, but the Thracians were not taking the old fleet lightly. They continued to press their attack, sending wave after wave of energy blasts. "Keep firing," Enzal shouted. "We need to hold them off until we can figure out how to get the full power of this ship online." Despite their efforts, the Thracians were relentless. One of their larger ships began to target the Sovereign Blade directly. Its weapons charged up, and a massive beam of energy shot toward them. "Brace for impact," Enzal ordered. The beam struck the ship's shields with a tremendous force. The ship shuddered, and the lights flickered. The shields held, but the energy drain was significant. The crew struggled to keep the ship operational as the battle intensified. "We've lost forward shields," Ralm shouted, working furiously at the console. "The impact has caused a power drain. We're running low on energy reserves. Is there any way to boost power to the shields?" Enzal asked, his voice strained. "I'm trying," Ralm replied. "But the systems are old and temperamental. I can reroute power, but it might not be enough." The ship rocked again as another wave of Thracian fire hit. The crew did their best to respond, firing back with everything they had. The ancient ship's weapons were less advanced but still dangerous, and they managed to knock out a few enemy ships. "Enemy ships are retreating," Terrace called out. "They're pulling back. I think we've made them reconsider their approach." Enzal exhaled a sigh of relief, though he knew it was only a temporary respite. "Maintain defensive positions. We need to assess the damage and see how we can improve our systems." The crew began their damage control. The ship's corridors were littered with debris, and some systems were barely functional. Despite the strain, the crew worked together, their training and quick thinking keeping them alive. Ralm managed to stabilize the power flow and restore some functionality to the ship's systems. "We've got enough power to keep the shields up for now. We should be able to make it through another attack if they come back." Enzal nodded, looking at the view screen as the Thracian ships retreated into the distance. "Good work, everyone. We've survived this battle, but we still need answers. Why did the Thracians attack, and how did the humans build this fleet?" The crew glanced at the old ship with a mix of awe and uncertainty. It was clear that the Sovereign Blade was more than just an ancient relic. It was a symbol of a forgotten era, and its secrets could change everything the Galactic Alliance knew about humanity. "We've faced the first wave," Enzal said. "Now, let's figure out the rest. We need to understand this fleet and why it was built before we can truly be safe." As the crew began their investigation into the ship's deeper mysteries, they knew that the battles ahead would test their resolve and challenge everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. The battle had left the Sovereign Blade scared but still operational. The crew worked tirelessly to repair the damage while keeping a wary eye on the view screen, watching for any sign of the Thracians' return. The old warship, once a forgotten relic, had proven its worth in battle, but its secrets remained largely uncovered. Enzal gathered the crew in the command center, his face serious. "We've survived the attack, but we need to know more about this fleet. There's too much at stake to leave anything to chance. Ralm, how are the repairs going?" Ralm wiped sweat from his brow and looked up from his console. "We've managed to get the essential systems back online, but the damage is significant. It'll take time to fully restore everything. I'm also still working on the ship's logs. They're fragmented, but I found some interesting data." "Show us," Enzal said, his tone firm. "We need to understand what we're dealing with." Ralm tapped a few keys, and the main screen displayed a set of logs and schematics. These logs indicate that the fleet was involved in a massive conflict with the Thracians. According to the data, the Human Federation built this fleet not just for defense, but for a full-scale offensive against them. Terrace leaned in, examining the data. "So, the humans weren't just defending themselves. They were actually taking the fight to the Thracians." "Yes," Ralm confirmed. And it gets more intriguing. The logs suggest that this fleet had advanced technology, but it was lost or hidden after the war. It's possible that the Human Federation faced a catastrophic event that caused them to lose this technology. Orin, who had been quiet for most of the meeting, finally spoke up. What kind of catastrophic event could cause a civilization to lose advanced technology like this? Ralm shook his head. The logs don't say much. There's a mention of a great exodus and some kind of cataclysmic event, but it's not clear what happened. The important thing is that these ships were designed to be far more powerful than anything we've seen from humans today. Anzal rubbed his chin thoughtfully. We need to find more about this great exodus. It might explain why the Thracians are here now. If this fleet was significant in the past, they might have been searching for it, or they could be responding to its reappearance. The crew continued to analyze the data, their work interrupted only by occasional reports from the ship's sensors. The silence in the command center was tense, broken only by the hum of the ship's systems and the occasional beep from the consoles. Hours passed, and Ralm finally found a significant piece of information. I've discovered a detailed schematic of the ship's central computer. It looks like there's a core data repository deep within the vessel, possibly holding crucial information about the fleet's mission and history. Anzal's eyes narrowed. Can we access it? It's going to be a challenge, Ralm admitted. The repository is heavily secured. We'll need to bypass several layers of encryption. But if we can get in, we might find the answers we need. Do it, Anzal ordered. We need to understand what we're dealing with. Ralm and his team set to work, their fingers flying over the controls as they worked to bypass the encryption. The process was slow and meticulous, and the tension in the room grew as they faced each security measure. Meanwhile, Terrace monitored the sensors, keeping a watchful eye on the space around them. The Thracians had not returned, but the crew remained on high alert. The possibility of another attack loomed large. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Ralm let out a sigh of relief. We're in. I'm accessing the core data now. The main screen flickered as new data appeared. It was a detailed historical record of the Human Federation's conflict with the Thracians. Maps, tactical plans, and logs painted a picture of a massive war effort. The humans had fought fiercely, and their technology had played a crucial role in holding back the Thracians. This is incredible, Terrace said, his eyes wide. The humans weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting to protect the entire galaxy. Yes, Ralm agreed. And it looks like the Thracians were driven back, but the humans paid a heavy price. The Great Exodus might have been a last-ditch effort to save their people and their technology. Anzal studied the data carefully. We need to prepare for the possibility that the Thracians are searching for something specific. They might be looking for the remaining human technology, or even a remnant of their lost fleet. The crew nodded in agreement. The battle they had fought was only the beginning. The true challenge lay ahead in understanding the full scope of the ancient conflict and preparing for whatever threats might arise. As the crew continued their investigation, they knew that uncovering the secrets of the past was crucial to their survival. The Sovereign Blade was no longer just an old warship. It was a key to understanding a critical part of galactic history and facing the threats of the present. As the crew of the Sovereign Blade delved deeper into the ancient ship's data, they uncovered more about HFY revealed records of technological advancements, strategies, and most importantly, the reason for the Great Exodus. The command center was abuzz with activity. Ralm and his team were poring over detailed historical logs, trying to piece together the significance of the data they had recovered. Anzal, Terrace, and Orin stood nearby, their eyes fixed on the main screen as new information came to light. Ralm's fingers danced over the console as he navigated through a particularly complex set of schematics. This section of the data describes a weapons system that the humans developed during the conflict. It was designed to turn the tide of the war. Terrace leaned in, squinting at the holographic display. What kind of weapon are we talking about? It's called the Celestial Cannon, Ralm explained. The data suggests it was capable of immense destruction, but it was never fully deployed due to the catastrophic events that led to the Exodus. Orin, who had been quiet for a while, broke in. If this weapon is as powerful as the data suggests, it could be what the Thraxians are after. They might be searching for it, or any remnants of it. Enzal nodded. If the Thraxians know about this weapon, it would explain their interest in the old fleet. We need to find out more about the Celestial Cannon and see if there's any trace of it left. Ralm continued scrolling through the data, his brow furrowed in concentration. There's a reference to a storage facility on one of the ship's auxiliary planets. It might be where the weapon or its components were kept. The crew's focus shifted to the mention of this storage facility. If they could locate it, they might be able to find more information about the weapon or even its remnants. Prepare a recon team, Enzal ordered. We need to investigate this facility and see what we can find. Terrace, Orin, you'll be part of the team. Ralm, keep working on the data and try to pinpoint the facility's exact location. The team quickly assembled, gathering their gear and preparing for the mission. The ancient ship had a shuttle bay, and they used one of the old shuttles to travel to the auxiliary planet mentioned in the data. The atmosphere was tense, with the crew fully aware that their mission could uncover something crucial or dangerous. The shuttle touched down on the planet's surface, and the team disembarked. The landscape was rugged and desolate, a stark reminder of the long-forgotten conflict. The facility was located in a remote area, hidden among rocky outcrops and dense vegetation. As they approached the facility, they noticed its massive, rusted doors and decaying structures. The facility had clearly seen better days, but it still stood, a silent testament to the past. Orin took the lead, carefully scanning the area for any signs of recent activity. It's quiet. Too quiet. Keep your eyes open. The team made their way through the facility's main entrance, the air inside thick with dust and the smell of decay. The corridors were lined with old technology and abandoned equipment, remnants of a bygone era. Terrace shone his flashlight on a set of control panels. These systems are ancient. They might still work, but we'll need to be careful. The team moved deeper into the facility, their footsteps echoing through the empty halls. They reached a large storage chamber, its doors slightly ajar. Inside, they found rows of crates and storage units, many of them sealed tight. This must be it, Enzal said, examining the room. Start checking these containers. Look for anything related to the Celestial Cannon or advanced weaponry. Orin and Terrace began opening the crates, carefully inspecting the contents. They found various pieces of old technology, some of it still in working condition. However, there was no immediate sign of the Celestial Cannon. As they continued their search, Ralm's voice came through the comms. I've located the facility on the ship's schematics. It's marked as a high-security storage area. There might be more information in a central archive. Look for a mainframe or data core. The team followed Ralm's directions, eventually finding a central archive room. The room was filled with old computer terminals and storage devices. Terrace set to work, trying to access the data. After several tense minutes, Terrace finally got a connection. The screen flickered to life, revealing a set of files and records. Among them was a detailed schematic of the Celestial Cannon, along with its construction and operational details. This is it, Terrace said, his voice filled with excitement. We found the plans for the Celestial Cannon. Enzal studied the plans carefully. This is crucial. If the Thraxians are after this weapon, we need to understand how it works and how to protect it. This could be the key to the entire conflict. As the team collected the data and prepared to return to the Sovereign Blade, they knew that their mission had been a success. They had uncovered valuable information about the Celestial Cannon and the ancient conflict, but the true challenge lay ahead in how they would use this knowledge to protect themselves and the galaxy. With the data on the Celestial Cannon secured, the crew of the Sovereign Blade returned to their ship, the weight of their discovery heavy on their minds. They knew that the Thracians would not give up easily, and that their next steps would be crucial in protecting the galaxy from any potential threats. Back aboard the Sovereign Blade Enzal gathered his senior officers in the command center. The room was filled with an air of urgency as the crew prepared to discuss their findings and plan their next move. Enzal began, his voice steady but firm. "We've recovered critical information about the celestial cannon. We know its capabilities and its potential threat if it falls into the wrong hands. Our priority now is to ensure that the Thracians do not get their hands on it." Ralm, who had been analyzing the data from the facility, spoke up. "I've decrypted the final details about the celestial cannon's operational protocols. The weapon's activation requires a series of specific codes and a power source that's not easily replicated. However, if the Thracians manage to acquire any of the technology from the old fleet, they might try to recreate or reactivate it. Then we need to secure all the remaining technology and ensure that the celestial cannon's data remains protected," Terrace said, his brow furrowed. "We also need to consider the possibility that the Thracians might launch another attack to get what they want." Enzal nodded. "We need to stay vigilant. Our immediate goal is to strengthen our defenses and develop a strategy to keep the Thracians at bay. We should also consider reaching out to our allies and inform them about the potential threat." The crew set to work, fortifying the Sovereign Blade and coordinating with other allied forces in the galaxy. The knowledge of the celestial cannon and its history spread quickly, leading to increased cooperation among various factions who recognized the danger of the Thracian threat. Meanwhile, the Thracian commander, Zorak, was not pleased. His forces had been unable to secure the celestial cannon, and the frustration was evident in his aggressive demeanor. He convened a meeting with his senior officers in a dimly lit war room. "We underestimated the humans," Zorak growled, slamming his fist on the table. "Their old fleet was more advanced than we thought. We need a new strategy to obtain the weapon and neutralize the Sovereign Blade *. One of his officers, a gaunt figure named Kral, spoke up. "We should increase our reconnaissance efforts and deploy more ships to find any remaining pieces of the celestial cannon technology. We can also use covert operations to gather intelligence on the human allies and disrupt their preparations." Zorak's eyes narrowed. "Agreed. We cannot allow this setback to deter us. The celestial cannon must be ours, and the humans will pay for their defiance." Back on the Sovereign Blade the crew continued their preparations. They had reinforced their ship's defenses, updated their tactical plans, and established communication with other allied fleets. Despite the increased security measures, the crew remained vigilant, knowing that the threat from the Thracians was far from over. One evening, as the crew members took a brief respite from their duties, Orin approached Enzal with a concerned expression. "We've detected unusual activity in the outer sectors. It might be Thracian scouts probing for weaknesses." Enzal frowned. "How serious is the threat?" "Hard to say," Orin replied. "But we should be prepared for a potential engagement. I recommend increasing our patrols and readiness levels." Enzal nodded. "Agreed. Let's not take any chances. Ensure that all crew members are on alert and that our defensive systems are operating at full capacity." As the crew worked to implement these new measures, the atmosphere aboard the Sovereign Blade was one of tense anticipation. They knew that the coming days would be crucial in determining the outcome of their efforts to protect the galaxy. The stage was set for a decisive confrontation. The Thracians were regrouping, determined to claim the celestial cannon and crush their adversaries. Meanwhile, the crew of the Sovereign Blade prepared for what could be their most significant battle yet. Their resolve was unwavering, and their determination to safeguard the galaxy drove them forward. The confrontation between the old and the new, between the humans and the Thracians, was about to reach its climax. The fate of the galaxy hinged on their ability to protect the legacy of the past and face the challenges of the present.